Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gaming Droid and welcome to Mandagon, which is based on Tibetan theology and philosophy. It's a game by Blind Sky Studios who brought you Adam and Tenzi, which I haven't had much experience playing. This is supposed to be an adventure exploration platformer. I had a little go to make sure that everything was working okay. The controls are pretty much one-handed. It's WASD E to interact, space to jump, and tab to access your inventory. It's an interesting game. It is very smooth to move around. They give you this little section to kind of play. There's no tutorial and no kind of intro, which is sometimes the way with these games. They sometimes expect you to explore a little bit like Journey does, but it would have been nice to have just a little bit of a tutorial to look at a couple of the different mechanics in it. It's a free-to-play game, as this is the free trial series here on the Gaming Droid, so as you can imagine it's going to be a free game, and it's truly free. It doesn't contain micropayments, it doesn't contain microtransactions. Blind Sky Studios have decided to monetize it using an art book and original soundtrack, which is a downloadable content. And as you can tell, the soundtrack is certainly unique, and the sound assets are certainly unique. Now, based on Tibetan theology and philosophy is an interesting thing. There have been plenty of games by plenty of studios based on Greek and Norse, Roman, on even Viking and pagan mythology. But there's been very few based on Tibetan that I'm aware, very few based on Tibetan theology and philosophy. This is a prayer wheel. You have manual ones which you spin by hand. This one is one spun by water. I don't know if that's actually a thing in real life, if there's actually a water wheel set of spun prayer wheels. They're part of assorted religious ceremonies around that part of the world. A totem glow provides escape when all is lit, a door will gape. So we're looking to light the different totems that we find. The game controls beautifully. The character is very responsive, moves nice and easily. The jump has a little bit of float to it, which just makes sticking landings on the small platforms a little bit easier. Again, there's not much explained in it. You have to kind of go around hunting. And as you go around hunting, you kind of pick things up, like the fact that you can walk underwater but you can't swim. So when underwater you have to rely on little fan jets and little air jets to push you around. But that doesn't take away at all from the game. It's actually an interesting little idea that kind of gives your character an interesting weight. You don't have a double jump, which again gives your character an interesting weight. Speaking of your character, you're a little cube, and I'm not sure whether they're meant to be human or not. Later on you do find a person in a cave who's... I presume it's a person, it's a corpse in a cave, who's been praying, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a normal sized human being, in which case you're much smaller than a human. Sputter, cough and blood breathe, and bloody breath, sickness scuttles inside her chest. They say the game is about understanding true loss or true sacrifice. I don't know where that comes into it, but because I haven't gotten that far yet. But it would be interesting to see where that goes and where that ends up. And so far, this is what I've kind of experienced. I find these little symbols, and I go and I drop them off at their respective totems, and the door eventually opens. I haven't actually been through the door from this area yet in my explorations, as this is a semi-first impression series. The art style and the background art is really quite striking and quite beautiful. It does remind me slightly of older exploration RPGs and exploration adventure games from the sort of SNES and early PlayStation era, where you did have these big expansive worlds to explore, but where everything was drawn in a very simple style. These have very simple style, but at the same time quite complicated actual drawings, quite detailed drawings, and quite a lot of detail in them, but the style of them is quite simple. Ooh, that was me mistiming the jump. Dang it, I did it again. So the game itself, like the game is beautifully controlled, it's got a beautiful soundtrack, it's got a beautiful pacing and a beautiful style to it. The storyline is interesting, and the ideas they seem to be presenting are interesting, but I haven't yet completed the entire storyline, so I don't know where it's going to go in the end. Here are the totems, by the way, and Ingo's one of my symbols. The monetization model, which is an art book, an original soundtrack, and desktop images for a small fee, as the way of monetizing the game, I think is extremely positive and an extremely good way to monetize a free-to-play game. I don't think they'll get rewarded for that. I think people won't purchase those packs, whereas, in my opinion, companies that decide to release free-to-play games as truly free-to-play should be certainly rewarded for that. I think the idea that someone's actually released a game and said, like, here's the game, no strings attached, no questions, no quibbles, play the game, enjoy the game, and if you feel like supporting us, here's an opportunity to. That's a very rare thing, a very sort of uncommon thing to see people do as game creators. Oftentimes these games monetize themselves through large numbers of mini transactions, microtransactions. Now, I have no problem with microtransactions as cosmetics, but a lot of the organizations start to bleed their microtransactions into game-altering things, because that's how to encourage people to pay for them. There's our praying human. I presume this is a human, but she wouldn't fit inside the house, so I'm not sure. So there's a good monetization model behind a truly free-to-play exploration platformer. Now, I don't think I'll be doing a full playthrough of it, because I don't think it's in a way fair of me to do a full playthrough of it, which sounds a bit weird, but as an exploration platformer, a lot of it is based upon your exploration and your experiences of it. You sacrifice a selfless plight to catch her breath, is why you fight. I don't think it's fair of me to basically play the game entirely by myself, and I can't go that way, and then show you guys and not have you guys experience this yourself. It is a free-to-play game. You can go and grab it, you can play through it, and then if you feel like it, you can support the creators by paying for a very small price for downloadable content. I think this is actually one of the better free-to-play platformers I've tried so far. An awful lot of free-to-play platformers, the controls are a little bit loose and a little bit saggy. This one's got exceedingly tight controls and has an interesting storyline to mix in with those controls. So I think it's quite a good sort of basis for where this platformer is coming from and where this platformer might go in the future. So this is Mandagon by Blind Sky Studios, the creators of Adam and Tenzi. It is a free-to-play exploration platformer based on Tibetan theology and philosophy. It is absolutely gorgeous, has a beautiful soundtrack, and is a truly free-to-play game. So if you would like to get hold of this game, you can get it from Steam, from their free-to-play section, or you can just search in the Steam store. Have a look, and I will see you again next time.